everyone to tonight's online community forum. My name is Pam Duncan, and I'm the President and CEO of Metropolitan Development Council. I am joined, as always, by Amanda Westbrook, who is our moderator through tonight's conversation. We are partnering in this series of conversations with the Tacoma Urban League. The president and CEO, Twyna Nobles, is on a sabbatical and will be rejoining us shortly. At this time, however, I am going to turn the virtual floor over to Amanda Westbrook.
Thank you, Ms. Fabulous Pam Duncan. Tonight's conversation is, if we can believe it, the 25th in a series of discussions where we are diving into the different ways that COVID-19 is impacting Tacoma and Pierce County. Tonight, we'll focus on how everyone can ensure that their vote will count during the 2020 general election tomorrow. Our guests tonight are Pierce County Auditor Julie Anderson, Chair of the Pierce County League of Women Voters, Cynthia Stewart, and later on tonight, John Gaines from Tacoma Public Utilities will join us to talk about a program to help small businesses. Pam?
And we continue to be here for the community throughout the COVID-19 crisis with new conversations with a purpose every Monday evening at 5:00 p.m. The most important message throughout this series of conversations is that there is hope for our community. Our focus is to create space in each meeting to talk about resources, things that we can all be doing to help us get through this pandemic, and to talk about issues that concern our community. Amanda?
We would like to take a moment to acknowledge that this meeting is being conducted on Indigenous lands of the Puyallup people. We gratefully acknowledge that we rest on the traditional lands of the Puyallup people, where they make their home and speak the Lushootseed language. Throughout today's conversation, you can submit questions to be addressed by our speakers using the Q&A answer function in Zoom. We cannot promise that we will have time to consider every question, but we will do our best effort to get through the list in our allotted time. All right, our first question we always start out with is good evening. And to get started, I want to check in with each of you, including our Pam, to simply see how you are holding up today. And as a moderator, I do not call on individuals. I honor silence, as Pam has taught me, and I let you jump in as the spirit moves you.
I was waiting for Julie to go first, but this is Cynthia, and I will say I am doing very well today. We have put in a lot of work to get up to this point, and tomorrow is the culmination of it. So today is kind of a day of peace.
Thank you for that, Cynthia. And you are right. You have done a lot of work, and we thank you.
Well, I appreciate the way you're starting off the meeting with such a centering sense of reflection and peace. That has not been part of my day today. So this is really, really delightful. And I am wondering how Pam is doing.
I am eager, excited, and a little stressed, along with all of my community, and ready for Wednesday.
I'm going to step out of this conversation and ask Rob Huff to answer this question, because Rob is in charge of communications for MDC and advocacy, and he is also a dear friend, and I am wanting to know how he is doing.
Well, thank you for that, Amanda. I like others, I'm excited to see this election be finished. I know that that won't happen tomorrow, but at least the voting will be done. And I also feel some trepidation about how our country is going to come through this time.
Well said, Rob. Thank you for that. And thank you, Pam, also. We're going to jump right in, be respectful of everyone's time here tonight. Julie, with tomorrow being the deadline to cast a vote in the election, can people still register to vote on the day of the election?
Yes, they can. In 2019, that law was changed, and we now have what's called same-day registration, which means you can register to vote right up until 8 o'clock on election day. We don't want anybody to wait until that long, but if for whatever reason you're in that spot, we want you to take advantage of that. Unfortunately, you do need to do that in person at the election center. So we're asking people who are unregistered or know someone who's unregistered to please plan ahead and figure out how you're going to get to the election center before 8 p.m. What we're seeing today with our drive-through is long lines. At one point, at several points during the day today, we had lines all the way up to Costco. So we really need people to come as early as possible. Once you're in line, it moves rather fast. So I don't want to discourage people, and you do stay comfortable in your car. If you're riding the bus or you're walking or you're on a bike, we'll bring you into the lobby and serve you there.
Thank you for that, Julie. Well, what about, Julie, if someone is registered but they cannot find their ballot? What can people get last minute help with their ballots on election day?
Well, this is where I really need your community network to get the word out. At this point, we would really want people to print out their own replacement ballot rather than coming into queue and we want to reserve capacity for the unregistered to be able to register and vote. And if you can print your own replacement ballot at home, we want you to do that. I'm going to share my screen ever briefly. What you should be seeing our website. And so that's piercecountyelections.org. And hopefully Rob can maybe throw that in the chat. And under here, it says resources, self-help videos. We're going to make this more prominent starting tonight. Here's how to mark and print your own replacement ballot. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but
you will then see click print back, sign the declaration pages, or attach postage and return by.
So I just wanted to zip through that to show that it's a beginning to end. It's only like 3 minutes. It's 1 minute and 57 seconds long. So it's really short, but people could really help us by printing off their own replacement ballot. And then you just throw it in a drop box like any other ballot. We get lots of these. It's normal, it's routine. You're not going to get screened out. The count won't be delayed. So please do that.
Thank you.
If you don't have a printer, our 27 libraries, even though they're currently closed to the public because of COVID, are still helping us with elections on election day. So if you are a person that doesn't have a printer and you can't make it into the election center, you travel to one of the 27 public library branches. There will be a sign and a phone number on the outside. You do need a phone, and you'll call that. You'll be connected with us. We will send to the library your ballot and manage your registration over the phone. They'll print it out and take it out the door to you so that you can vote and then drop it at the drop box there at the library.
Very impressive, Julie. Very impressive. And Rob has put a note for me. The website is www.piercecountyelections.org if you have a printer and you need to print off your ballot. Cynthia, what resources does the League of Women Voters offer to voters who are trying to make last minute decisions about which candidates to support tomorrow?
Well, we have a couple of options. One of the options that we have is called Vote 411. It's www.411, www.vote411.org. And when you put your address in on that website, it brings up all of the things that are on the ballot at your address. And so for candidates, it has candidates' answers to questions. And how it differs a little bit from the voters pamphlet that you get from elections is that the candidates are all being asked the same questions and answering the same questions, as opposed to a marketing piece that they might put in the submit to the elections department. The other thing I would advise is in Pierce County at our league, we have www.tacomapiercelwv.org, election 2020. We have recordings of all of the candidate forums that we did. And so if you're wondering who to vote for in your legislative district or for the Pierce County Council or executive, you can go there and watch the candidate forum, and maybe that would help you make up your mind as well.
Those are some great resources. Thank you so much. So Julie, one of the questions I think that's on all of our minds is, do you know how many Pierce County voters have already voted, number one? And then what is your final expectation for the turnout for this election?
We're sticking with our projection of 85%. And as of this evening, we have received and processed 371,000 ballots. So we've received 377,000 ballots, but we've processed, so we've done the SIG check, we've received them, and we've actually scanned 371,000, which is more than we've ever done in an entire election ever before. So that's more than the totality of 2016. And so it's just, it's giant. So that means on election night at 8 o'clock when we post results, we're pretty confident that we will be reporting the results of over 70% of Pierce County's ballots that we expect for the entire election. So when those results come out, they will be pretty darn definitive.
Julia, that is just so impressive. And as somebody who has toured the facility and seen all the amazing people who work there, and certainly a huge thank you, because that's a lot of work. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And your social media posts have been outstanding.
Thanks.
When you show where we were 4 years ago and where we are now, and that little flag climbing up the mountain.
Yeah.
It's just so lovely to see that. It gives you hope that people are out there voting.
Yeah.
One of the questions, and Rob put this in here, and I think it's a great one, is out of curiosity, have any drop boxes in Pierce County been completely full so far in this election? And then the second follow-up to that is, has anyone tried to tamper with those boxes?
No, the myth of the overflowing drop box is a myth. The big ones hold over 5,000 ballots, and we visit them on a daily basis. So what typically happens is a family comes by and they put all 3 ballots in the slot, and then they don't poke it far enough in, and then the next person comes by and they freak out. Instead of just poking it, they freak out and call us. So we don't have overflowing drop boxes, but they are being used. And this is going to, now that people know that it's probably too late to use the mail, but throughout the election, they were favoring drop boxes 73% to 27% mail. Part of that had to do with the drama and the misinformation about the Postal Service. And can I just say, we've had outstanding regular Postal Service in Pierce County, and King County reports the same thing. There are not delays in mail. They're doing a bang up job, and we meet with them every single day, even on Saturdays.
Oh my
So.
goodness.
And no, we haven't had anybody tamper with them. We haven't had anybody graffiti them. Pierce County voters are being very respectful and happy, and they're just participating. It's been very funny in this election, not funny, but people's expectation of problems is so high. Everybody is just keyed up and teed up for voter intimidation and riots and protests and vandalism and problems. And there is no evidence of that in Pierce County, and people are being great. We're ready for problems, but everybody's being cool.
So speaking of that, yeah, big round of applause, the Zoom round of applause here. And that is, has it warmed your heart to see on social media, Julie and Cynthia? I want to ask you this, the pictures of people putting their ballots into a ballot box. Go ahead, Cynthia, you can answer that.
Well, I'll answer that because our whole mission is to get people engaged in democracy. That's what we do. That's our thing. So I love it. I just love it.
What about you, Julie?
I like it too. And I know that some people miss polling places. I'm pretty sure they don't miss standing in line or missing the election. But it still shows that people can have fun and community spirit and family time around elections, and you don't have to have a polling place to do that. I love the selfies. Yeah, it's really nice.
I love that. Well, I've loved watching them too. I think they're very creative. So Julie, in terms of actual election results, where is the best place to find out Pierce County election results tomorrow night?
Our website, piercecountyelections.org. Once we tabulate and we get the results, we do a quick audit in our office. And when we feel confident, then we create a PDF and we will post that to our website. And then with a secure thumb drive, then we will upload the results to the Secretary of State's site. Now, the Secretary of State does a lot of double checking and auditing, and they've got cybersecurity procedures that I won't go into detail about. But it means that when they're taking in 39 county results and they're doing all that ticking and tying and cybersecurity protocol, it's going to take them a while to have the whole state results up. And I want to emphasize to everybody that does not mean that there's a problem. It means that they are being careful and taking their time so that when you do see the results, you can be confident that they're accurate and that they haven't been tampered with in any way. So go to piercecountyelections.org first, and you'll see a PDF of the local results. And then maybe 30 minutes, maybe even 45 minutes later, you can check the state site and see the aggregate results from some of those state and national things that we're looking for. Give us until 8:15, 8:20. Be patient. It's only 15 to 20 minutes for us to get that done and to audit it.
That is amazing. So if you're someone like me, I'm checking every moment. I'm like wanting to know hour by hour details. So how much of the count, Julie, do you expect will be done in that initial tally tomorrow?
I think that we're going to have 70, maybe over 70% of the ballots that we're expecting in the election will be included in that 8 o'clock release. And by the way, there is no county in Washington state that's going to have a release after 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock is it. So you can put your jammies on and gossip, but don't hit refresh, because there aren't going to be more results, because we have to. People think that we're being lazy by not posting secondary results. We're busting our ass. Oh, can I say that? We're busting our ass to go out to drop boxes at 8 o'clock and retrieve those and bring those in. And in fact, we will be working well past midnight. We have an overnight crew that will be bringing in those Dropbox ballots and then traying them and getting ready for processing the next morning. So we're too busy to be posting second results. And besides that, we can't. By the time we get them in, there's a lot of steps between that and actually counting them.
So Miss Cynthia, what kind kinds of work has the League of Women Voters been doing leading up to this historic election?
Well, we've been doing a lot, frankly, and we're, by the way, an all-volunteer organization. We don't have any paid staff, so what we do is what we can do. I will say that this COVID has certainly changed our methodology. So, for example, in the past, we've done a lot more voter registration than we did this year, but we did some working with high schools and Tacoma Community College online to teach people how to register themselves that way. And what we also heard from Julie a couple of years ago is that something in the order of 83% of the people who are eligible to be registered are registered. So that wasn't our highest priority this year. Another thing that we did is a lot of get out the vote work. We did sign waving with a lot of publicity. We started a system called Outreach Circle where we use social networking that spread with messages about registering and then voting. Some of our volunteers took postcards provided by Julie Anderson's office to lower vote turnout precincts and places there to encourage people who aren't typically voting to get them to vote. And then the Vote for 111 that I mentioned earlier, we developed the questions for that, and we encourage our candidates to engage in that. And then, of course, we have the candidate forums. We did, I think, 13 in the primary and at least a dozen in the general. That's quite a bit of work, actually. And then posting those online and so forth. And then there's one other thing that I think most people don't realize, and that is that for many years, the Democrats and the Republicans have each been entitled to have voter observations. Vote count observations. And Julie approached us a couple of years ago and said, what about the 40% of the people that are not Democrats or Republicans? And so the League of Women Voters has been sponsoring a nonpartisan election ballot counting observation process. So we get volunteers, we have them go through the auditor's office training, and then they watch the process. And some of the fears that people have around other parts of the country are certainly not valid here because we have a lot of eyes on the process and there is no way it could get harmed, I think. So anyway, and I give Julie a lot of credit for that.
Well, I give you a lot of credit for that as well, my dear, because given that the League of Women Voters is a all volunteer, the weight and the heft that you lift in this county on behalf of being impartial is unparalleled. I mean, that's twice as much work you have to do to know every side of the issue, every candidate, in order to present a very unbiased point of view. So I'm giving you a huge pat on the back here, sister, and also all of your people.
Thank
We've
you.
got the League of Women Voters in this county is I think unparalleled, and anybody that's listening, it would be I strongly encourage you to become a member, even if you don't think you could be one of those active volunteers. Be a member. Just getting their newsletter is worth the very tiny dues that they charge, and they take their work so seriously. I mean, you can trust everything that they do because it's so accurate and thoroughly researched and vetted. They're just really fabulous.
Pretty impressive.
I just say I didn't expect all that, but thank you, all of you, for that. But let me just add, if students join, it's only $10 a year, which is a real bargain.
It is. So, Cynthia, what has excited you and I'm going to say your team about the historic nature of this general election? And do you think that the participation levels this year could lead more voters in participating in the future years as well?
Well, I think what really has excited me is the level of interest that people have had. We've had actually more participation in our candidate forums by virtue of people watching the videos, for example, as opposed to coming to an event live. We've had so many people reaching out, asking us questions about how to get information and that kind of thing. It's very exciting. I'm hoping that Pierce County will retain the kind of peace and calm that Julie's talking about. And I'm hopeful that people will continue to do this because our democracy depends on us weighing in. It depends on being informed and then weighing in with our vote. And if we don't do that, we won't have democracy anymore. So I'm very excited about all the people who haven't habitually voted, who are now voting for the first time. That's really tremendous. I will say also that I'm older than all of you, and I remember the 60s and the 70s, early 70s, when things were pretty tumultuous. And there was a lot more activity then. And then there was this long gap. I'm hoping we don't go back to that. I'm hoping that we keep people moving and staying involved.
Are you seeing, when you look at those people who are joining in and watching the forums and taking advantage of all the amazing information that the Women's League of Voters puts out, are you seeing young people engaged?
We are seeing young people, and we've been helping Tacoma Community College, for example, do some things they've never done before. So one of the student body leaders there has been having what she calls Power Hour, which is interviews with elected officials. And they had their own candidate for them. They've never done that before. And they're having a lot of conversation among themselves. And this is happening in high schools as well. So I'm very excited about young people getting involved.
Absolutely. Julie, I want to quickly ask you, and I asked you this when you were on City Line in my kitchen, how has COVID-19 affected that floor where when I toured it last year with TV Tacoma and saw all of your volunteers, what precautions are being put in place?
One, we don't have volunteers. They're all professional employees that have been background checked. And the first thing you'll notice is that everybody's spread 6 feet apart, for one thing, and everybody's wearing masks. I think we're getting more and more used to that. And one thing that the casual observer wouldn't notice, but is deeply felt by the employees, the election workers, is we used to have, these great potlucks for breaks where part of the election family fun was bringing in your side dish for potluck at lunch break. And we can't do that anymore. We've got boxed lunches and we make everybody go out in their car to eat so they can stay away from each other. So that's a little bit sad, also a little expensive, but that's the way we keep people safe. And I will also say, we were early on in this disease, election officials were bracing to have a workforce shortage. We didn't have anybody say, I'm not going to work this year because of this disease. Nobody. And we've got some high risk employees in terms of their age and medical conditions, and everybody showed up for work and wanted to work, and we've been able to keep them safe.
Boy, that says a lot about that team and also the leadership. And I want to say congratulations to that. I know that Pam sent you a question about the absolute deadline for submitting a ballot to the drop box, and also what time your office opens tomorrow.
We'll be open for customer service at 8:30. So from 8:30 until 8 is our voting center hours. And the deadline for everything is 8. If you are the last car or the last person in line at 8 o'clock, then you'll get a card that says last person in line, and we'll walk up to the service station or to the ballot drop box with you. But I'm really hoping that we don't have lines at 8 o'clock where we end up having somebody screeching around the corner at the last minute. They're not going to be able to, their ballot's not going to count. So
get there early.
Get there early because there's no provision for I got caught at the red light, or my Google Maps sent me the wrong direction, or there's no excuse. So
Go tonight.
That's right.
Yeah.
So my last question for Cynthia and for Julie, because I know that both of you, your time is very precious, and Julie, especially you've been working while you've been sharing your knowledge with us. And then we have Dr. John Gaines to talk to us. So question for both of you. As you look back on this election, what is the one thing you will take with you? And Cynthia, why don't you go ahead and start first?
The one thing. Wow. Well, I guess the one thing is what we talked about earlier, which is this emerging interest in actually getting engaged. And again, I saw that in the 60s, but I haven't seen it for a long time in the meantime. So I'm excited about that. And I think that's the biggest thing. The COVID part is another piece of it. It's a kind of the opposite. It made us feel bad, but people are coming out anyway, and I think that's going to be my takeaway.
I love that. And Julie, I'm going to use one of Cynthia's words. What's your takeaway?
I'm going to say the election isn't over. So I don't know yet. Looking back on the season, it's the confluence between the social justice protests and elections. That's my takeaway from the season. But in terms of this election, it's a long way from being over. So check back with me in a month or so.
All right. Pam, do you have anything to add before we bring Dr. John Gaines on from TPU?
Yes, I thank you, Amanda. Julie, thank you so very much for making the time to appear twice. We have learned so much from you, and we greatly appreciate the role and the service you provide to our community. So thank you so much.
Well,
and
I appreciate your network, so thank you.
Thank you. And Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us and providing such valuable resources, and just being able to make the time to appear with us tonight as well. Thank you to both of you.
Absolutely.
Have a good night.
Good night. So we should leave. Is that it?
Well, you can stick around if you'd like to listen to Dr. John Gaines. Absolutely, because he is amazing. And there he is. So your choice there, Cynthia. Welcome, Dr. John Gaines, my Facebook buddy and someone whose family I just love.
Thank you.
Good. It's so good to have you here. So as we mentioned, you are from Tacoma Public Utilities. And so welcome to Straight Talk. I know you want to share some information about a new program at TPU for small businesses. So I'm going to let you take the stage, as we say, and what can you tell us about tonight?
Perfect. Yeah, so I won't take too much time. I just wanted to briefly share some help that we have for small businesses. I understand that it's a hard time for a lot of folks right now, not just in Tacoma, but across the nation. And so we do have a utility assistance program for small businesses. TPU is currently offering assistance program to support businesses impacted by COVID-19. And these funds are really a component of the City of Tacoma's COVID-19 relief funds, and then the federal CARES Act that a lot of folks are receiving and have received this year. And I just want to, and I will leave a chat. I'm on Facebook as well on my phone. And so I will leave links in the chat as well. So I hope that's helpful. But qualified applicants are eligible to receive up to $750 in assistance on utility charges incurred since March of 2020. And that specific date is March 17 of 2020. And then the final assistance amount will be based on the number of qualified applicants. At this time, this resource is only available to businesses located within the city of Tacoma. And the reason why I wanted to present tonight, even though I know we hope to come back next week and share more information, is because the deadline for these applications are November 6th. And to qualify for these funds, one, you need to have a current account with TPU. So you have to be a utility customer, one of our customers. You'll have to have a total of 50 or fewer employees. And lastly, operate from a brick and mortar building within the city of Tacoma. And then just lastly, I do want to share with folks something that we've been communicating with the community. We do continue to waive late fees for businesses, suspend disconnections for non-payment, and offer flexible payment arrangements during this state of emergency. And then, like I said, I will share a link where you could find more resources if you have been impacted. But I just want to encourage folks to, one, apply for these funds. And then if you have more questions, I will also share a link for our business, or an email for our business solutions office that can help answer additional questions.
So John, I know, oh, Pam, go ahead. I saw your mouth move. Go right ahead.
So I have a question, and welcome, Dr. Gaines. Thank you so much for joining us. What type of response have you seen thus far for this particular form of assistance?
Yeah, and that is a really great question. I do have two colleagues with me that are working the day-to-day operations. Holly Coates, seamstress, who runs our customer solutions office. I know she's been a familiar face with maybe even on Straight Talk. And then I have Jennifer Collins with me as well. And I know, Holly, if you would like to jump in and answer that specific question, what kind of traction you have seen so far in your office.
Sure, I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, so my team is, again, I'm Holly Coates Seamster. I'm the supervisor for our customer solutions group, and we are working with our business solutions group to help process these applications and distribute the funds. And so as of me logging out this evening, I think we're up to 350 applications. We need to get the word out to get more. We have the bandwidth to process more. Whatever funds we don't spend goes back to the federal government. So as you're out and about, please share this information. If you're at your local coffee shop or your favorite little mom and pop store, stop by and let them know that this information is available.
That's very, very impressive. And I want to, Holly, I want to jump in on that, on the coattails of that. When I had you on Cityline, you touched me very deeply, because you talked about when people cannot pay their utility bill, the fear that sets in. They're making choices between food, between gas, between numerous things. And small business owners are people too. They have those same choices they have to make. And Holly, do you remember what you said to me when you looked right at the camera and you said, if you have a bill right now that you cannot pay, do this? Do you remember, Holly, what you said?
I do. I say multiple things when we get together, but the first thing that I remind everyone, if you look at a bill and you feel like you can't pay it at that moment, that's the time to pick up the phone and call us. Don't wait. And right now, during the pandemic, as Dr. Gaines had explained, we're not doing disconnections right now. However, don't wait. Don't sit back and wait. If you know that this is going to be a challenge for you, reach out and either send us an email, give us a call, and fill out this application so we can get you qualified and hopefully get some assistance to you.
Absolutely. Dr. Gaines, what would you like to add to that?
That's really it. I look forward to our time next week, where I can talk a little bit about the rates, and then we'll also share more information on some of our assistance for seniors and low income folks in the area as well that can be helpful.
One of the questions I have is, small business owners are very busy right now. I mean, they're trying to keep their doors open. Many of them are schooling their children in the back room. How long does this process take for them to fill out the paperwork?
So the application itself only takes a few minutes to fill out. It's a very short, simple application. We're not asking for any supporting documentation. we, submit the information, share, letting us know how many employees that you have. And there's also a checkbox. If you're a minority-owned business, check that. If you're a woman-owned business, check that. And then there's also a text box to give us some information so that we can get a sense of what's happening in the community. And so far, so many businesses have already been sharing what they're facing, their struggles, how many employees they've had to let go, what reopening has looked like for them. So it is a quick application. And we do understand and appreciate how busy our business owners are. And we do have an outbound calling campaign from our business solutions team. We are trying to reach out to as many businesses as possible and let them know that this is available. So if we understand that you're busy, but if you can just take a few minutes, fill that out, and it'll be really quick, and you can get right back to what you were doing. And in the meantime, we'll be processing that application in the background.
So as we talk about a lot here on Straight Talk, we talk about lowering and also permanently removing barriers. So if a small business owner does not have a computer, how do they contact you? How do they fill this form out?
So they can call, of course, if I try to tell you the business number directly, I'll have it wrong, but they can call TPU, Tacoma Public Utilities, our general phone number, and that's 253-502-8600. And they will get you to our business solutions team, where they can help you fill out that application if you are having challenges, as well as with technology, computers, as well as language. We have access to interpreters over the phone, and so we can go through it with you in your language.
I love that.
Yes, and I will leave that number in the chat box as well, but I'll repeat it again because I actually have that number up to the business solutions. It's 253-502-8606, and I will put that number in the chat on Facebook as well.
Thank you. And also, great minds think alike. Rob also has that in our chat box. So I think that people are very well informed. Pam, is there anything you'd like to ask of Holly and Dr. Gaines while we have them, before I ask them what brings them hope?
Actually, I don't have any other questions. I find this conversation really fascinating, and I really appreciate that Dr. Gaines and his team reached out to ensure that this information gets out to our community. So thank you so much.
Well, before I let you go, Dr. Gaines, back to your beautiful family, and also Miss Holly, back to yours. One of the questions that we ask all of our panelists before we say goodnight on Straight Talk is, where are you finding hope right now? So Holly, I'm going to start with you first. Where are you finding hope?
For me, it's been through my 8-year-old, soon to be 9-year-old, in a couple of days, granddaughter. She asked me last week, she said, Nana, is it against the law to not vote? And I said, no, it's not against the law, but there are a lot of people that made tremendous sacrifices so that you and I as Black girls can vote. So we need to honor that, and we need to vote. And so she went with me to the ballot box, and she put the ballots in for us and got her picture taken in front of the ballot box. So knowing that she will be able to vote at the age of 18 is what's given me hope.
And you're
Holly,
making me cry.
yeah, Holly, I don't know if you can see us, but I was applauding wildly as you were speaking. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
You're my kind of Nana. So Dr. John Gaines, everybody knows that besides blood, positivity and faith runs through your veins. You live it, you breathe it, you speak it. So that's why I came to you last, because I know you have a lot to say about what brings you hope. So the microphone is yours.
I will share a short preview of a message that I was able to share some of it yesterday, and I'm recording this message. I think most folks know, but on Wednesday for our annual MLK celebration. And so I'm recording in a couple of days, and the title of the message is Be Hopeful. As I reflect on the pandemic and the social unrest, I think about my family often. I've been able to spend a lot of time with my family, and really, I'm a firm believer in what we focus on expands. Whereas a lot of folks are focusing on the problems right now, we choose to focus on solution. And the beginning of solution, although we understand that hope is not a plan, we understand that hope and faith are the beginning of the solution for my family. So how do we instill those into our lives every day? One, because hope uh, gives us light. It's our light, and it gives us light, and it helps us see despite all the darkness that surrounds us. And as when everyone says quit, when everyone tries to remind us of the problems, when hate comes out, hope is that small voice that whispers, "Don't give up." And so I literally wake up with my baby girl, my 2-year-old, and we do that through the form of affirmations. And baby girl, repeat after me: I'm smart. I'm smart. I am kind. I am kind. I am strong. I am strong. Like I can have hope. I can have hope. And so we have these affirmations we do because, like I said, what we focus on expands. And all I can do in this season, I realize, is control what happens in my family, because how we treat each other in our home is only magnified in public. And so I do a combination of those things just to stay hopeful during these times.
Oh, those words are balm for my soul. Okay, Miss Pam, drive us home and tuck us in, baby.
Well, we have been certainly very efficient with our time this evening, and we've had a tremendous amount of information provided during this time. I'd like to thank Dr. John Gaines and Holly Coates, Seamster, for their time and for all of the information that you have provided to us. I really am going to close us out, dovetailing on what Dr. John said. Without faith and hope, we have nothing. So for whatever that is that we are leaning on, it's important that we have the utmost faith in it. And I just also want to remind everyone, because I am such a big avid Hamilton, the musical fan, don't waste your shot. Don't waste your vote. Make certain you cast that vote. And with that, I will say good night to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good night.
Good night.